The short answer is I do not see this as the end of the world. Some agents, again, that are not preparing will struggle, but real estate's not going anywhere.
Buyers aren't important in the process, though, Levi. Buyers agents are not important, and we're just simply door openers.
Just tuning into this video, or if you've been listening to others, you're ahead of the curve for the agents that are not preparing themselves. This may be a bit more of a struggle.
All right, everybody, the sky is falling. Oh my God, the sky is falling. As of the recording date, we are just several days away from the implementation nationwide of the NAR Settlement. I am John Arroyo from LPT Realty. This is Levi Fortner, and we are Pardon Our Disruption. This is a new podcast / vlogcast. We're doing it on YouTube, and we're talking about the real estate industry and what's currently going on, especially with all this confusion right now with the NAR settlement. So let's get right to it. We're both YouTubers. Levi just got off a phone call with one of his clients that called him from his YouTube channel. What was his question, Levi?
His question was, how are you going to be compensated? Or what does the commission structure look like? As he obviously has seen the headlines. So it's definitely a real conversation that we're having with clients. And it will be interesting how this all plays out.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting. I had one last week. The same thing happened to me. And, I just said, this is going to be the same as it always was. I don't know if I answered that correctly, but I said, look, I'm going to go to the seller and I'm going to try and get my payment from the seller. I usually charge 2.5% to 3%, and that's what it's going to look like. Now, we don't have any paperwork between us right now because we're talking about this before August 17th, but August 17th, I'll have you sign something. Is that the correct answer? Because I don't even know.
To a degree, yeah. I mean, we are going to have to prepare ourselves, I believe, to, have those commission talks with our buyer. And there may be, situations where we do actually get paid from the buyer. Now, there's a lot of ways to navigate that. That could be closing costs, where the seller doesn't necessarily feel like it's coming out of their pocket, even though it is, but it's not coming out of your buyer's pocket. Regardless, what we will have to do is have a signed agreement with our clients. And so it's just being able to explain this process, how things have changed. What's always happened prior is the seller paid the commission, and seller's agents went in there and negotiated up front the full commission. And it's actually the selling agent who was giving part of their co-brokerage commission compensation to the buyer's agent. So the big difference now is either the seller will typically pay it directly, or your buyer could be responsible for all of it. I do not see this as a bad thing. This is actually a huge opportunity. It's a opportunity to position yourself, to provide your value. And I think we're just going to have to navigate this similarly to how we would go into a listing presentation. For some states, nothing has actually really changed. Some states have required buyer-broker agreements or buyer agreements prior to working with that client. We're in Florida, John, me and you, and that has not have been required. But it's just change, and change is not always bad. With change comes opportunity. So, just tuning into this video, or if you've been listening to others, you're ahead of the curve. And for the agents that are not preparing themselves, this may be a bit more of a struggle.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Levi, I want to talk to you about this. Do you think this is going to cause a mass exodus from the industry? There seems to be a lot of people, especially on these Facebook groups, that are predicting the end of real estate as we know it. How do you see this playing out?
Absolutely not the end of real estate. Again, I'm an optimist, but I believe this is a huge opportunity. And in this market, at least specifically ours, everywhere is not the same, but there's a lot of opportunity to working with ready, willing buyers. Everyone preaches listings equals leverage and control. But when you have listings that are sitting for several months right now, it can be more appealing to have a buyer who's ready to sign a deal tomorrow with more options available. The short answer is I do not see this as the end of the world. Some agents, again, that are not preparing will struggle maybe to have those conversations, but real estate's not going anywhere. I truly believe that. Not even AI can replace that, in my opinion. People die, people inherit, people have to live places. It's one of the best investments over time. I think a lot of people know that. And the idea that buyers will go without representation, to me, is ridiculous. And room for a lot more lawsuits, in my opinion.
Talk about areas of opportunity here. Now, both you and I are YouTube agents. We have a strong YouTube channel that funnels our buyers into us. Luckily for us, the case is when people contact us, they already know us and they want to work with us. So this can be actually beneficial to some agents as we're actually exploring the option of requiring some sort of payment beforehand. A retainer, if you will, to retain our services. So we know we get rid of the tire kickers and, we can refund that retainer as soon as they purchase with us. But we do have a lot of buyer demand coming to the YouTube channel. So we see this as an opportunity, not necessarily a bad thing. And the fact that we can now say, okay, yeah, you can use us. This is how much we're going to be getting paid, 3%, but we will need X amount from you before we start to work for you. What are your thoughts on that?
Opportunity is exactly the right word, I think, John, because prior to this, really, we were kind of held to whatever commission the listing agent agreed was what we were getting paid. And we've seen those continue to shrink. What used to be somewhat of a standard was 3%. Now, that's how we ended up here, right? Is price fixing. That's what caused this lawsuit.
I'm sorry, you cannot say standard. Thank you. You cannot say standard.
Exactly.
The DOJ is actually making a call right now. They're coming in on the line. No, the DOJ is not coming in on the line. But yeah, they're listening.
Probably. Yeah, no, I mean, that's how we ended up here is the big brokerages were essentially saying you had to charge 5 or 6%, and they actually would not allow agents to change that. Then the industry was somewhat disrupted by a lot of, discount brokerages, which haven't panned out. Redfin is an example of that. But now we have an opportunity to really agree to what we think our worth is with our buyers. Again, that can be paid for by the seller, but instead of being held to 2%, or I've seen 1%, 1.5% advertised in the MLS, now you have the opportunity to negotiate that with your buyers, show your value. And for buyers agents who are going to prepare themselves for this and treat this as the same way they would go into a listing appointment, you have an opportunity here to actually possibly make more money. And that's not the goal here. Obviously, the goal is always to do the right thing by your client, but it does not have to be looked at as this big negative thing. And I truly believe that a lot of sellers will continue to offer cooperative compensation. Professional, high-end realtors, top producers are going to explain the value of offering incentives. I think we had both just recently seen in the midst of all this chaos, D.R. Horton, the largest builder in the country, is right now offering 8% buyer's commission agreement.
But
so
buyers
they're going away.
Yeah, buyers aren't important in the process, though, Levi. Remember, that's the narrative that people want to spin. Buyers agents are not important. We're just simply door openers.
Yeah, false. I mean, if you view yourself that way, this is a huge opportunity to level up, to find out where your value is. We're seeing a lot of people create presentations of all the things that we offer to clients. If you're just a door opener, you may find this to navigate this quite difficult. But the idea that buyers are going to go unrepresented going forward is crazy to me. I think that's just a whole new can of lawsuits waiting to happen. The fact that sellers agents are going to represent all these clients that are bringing them offers. What do you do in a multiple offer situation? How can you do the right thing for your seller and then also 3 or 4 buyers that are presenting an offer? That is a mess that, I don't want to be a part of.
Yeah, it sounds like it's opening itself up to a lot of litigation. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of lawsuits that will possibly be at play here because it opens the door to a lot of shadiness, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we will absolutely see some more lawsuits. Some people might argue that the original settlement was a cash grab by some lawyers. I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but to me, lawyers do a lot of price fixing. They have a standard. They take 30% of these multi-million-dollar settlements. This is phase one, really, and it's why it's important to stay ahead of the curve. Right now, there's a lot of interpretation left in the settlement. There's a lot of lawyers with mixed opinions, and I think that we will see some buyers, opening up some new cases because they were misrepresented by sellers agents. I just think that the buyer's agent brings a ton of value to the industry and is an important part in someone making the largest investment in their life.
This is a real funny meme that I saw earlier today, and it's so true. NAR Settlement breakdown, attorney firm, $350 million. They're 35%. They're 33% cut, and the homeowner only got 30% or $30 of what it was broken down to. A really interesting way to look at it. So what we're seeing really with this NAR settlement is a bunch of lawyers win, and then all of a sudden us as real estate agents are the evil people that have been taking advantage of everybody for far too long, which I don't think to be the case. I think, in every situation that I've been in, especially over the last couple months, we've had buyer situations, and this is where I think seeing your value is so important. We had a couple situations where we wound up saving one buyer $50,000 on their house, by being the experts that we are. And I think what needs to happen for a lot of agents is you need a mind shift change. And stop seeing yourself as a door opener, because we offer so much more than that. And there are transactions that we've been a part of this year that we earn every single penny that we get from the transactions. This is not an easy business. Anybody that tells you that is lying to you. Do we have easy deals sometimes? Yeah, some deals go easier than others, but the hard ones are the reason why you pay your realtor what you pay them. And in my experience, both as a buyer, as a consumer, and as a real estate agent, my realtors have been worth their weight in gold every single time. And there's a reason why I use them every single time, because it was their area of expertise. And now I've considered it my area of expertise. Of course, I'm a newer agent. I've only been doing this for about 6 months now. I was a video production person that owned a video production company before that. But my wife has been in it for the last 3 years. And I saw her having all the fun. And I was like, dude, I'm good. I'm jumping in. I'm going to have some of this fun with you. And I think because of the time it is right now, where a lot of people are going to be seeing this as hard, when people see things as hard, they leave. They find something easy to do. So for me, this is a huge area of opportunity. If we can be successful in the next 6 months as a real estate agent team, we are going to see exponential growth as more and more people leave the industry. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think people are actually going to be leaving the industry because of this?
Probably a small percentage for sure. There's a lot of part-time realtors out there. For the realtors that just feel like it is too painful to sit down with a buyer and potentially negotiate up front, this might not be for you. But I don't mean to say that in a fearful way or negative way, because this is just change, and change is not always bad. A good example, is when ForSaleByOwner.com came out years and years ago. A lot of people were freaking out that, the listing agent was going to go away, that now sellers could just sell their home by themselves and was no longer needed. So it's kind of an opposite effect, but obviously that did not pan out. People do need representation. We have to learn a lot in this career. It's not just opening a door by any means. The negotiating contracts is a huge component of it. Helping with inspections, dealing with the title company, guiding them to the right lender. It just goes beyond and beyond. And so our value, like you said, is, I think, worth the wait for sure. You're helping people with massive investment, whether it is personal investment or it's their actual home for their family. Real estate will not go anywhere regardless. People die, people get married, people have children, people inherit properties, people invest. It's one of the most sure industries, I believe, that's out there. And it's bountiful for the people that are just willing to adapt. Then things should be fruitful for them. I absolutely believe that.
Let's go take a look at this slide right here, Levi. Go ahead and give us a detailed what's going on here in this slide.
Yeah, so this has been going around. It is a slide taken out of the National Association of Realtors presentation that they're getting ready to I believe they either already presented this or is coming up soon. Basically, what we know from the settlement is that you can no longer advertise compensation in the MLS. This will vary a little bit in local MLSs. They're all going to kind of have their own version of this, and you cannot say anything about it. That's clear. You will not see it. But this is interesting because what NAR is saying is that potentially you could put sign riders on top of the for sale signs. What we will absolutely do is call the agents. I've already been dealing with this with listings we have, and agents are just asking up front, hey, is the seller willing to pay a commission? And from my experience so far, we haven't really seen any changes, but essentially what about the
agents that don't answer? What about the agents that don't answer their phone? Because we've all dealt with that. The listing agent, it's too important to pick up their phone. How important is it going to be for them to finally pick up the phone and change some of their habits?
Well, here's the thing. Like, regardless, we are going to have an agreement with the buyer prior to showing them a home. There are going to be touring agreements, which are separate. I would advise you not to make that a habit because you're kind of trying to avoid, the buyer broker agreement. But there are going to just be simple touring agreements just to show a home, just basically saying it's a one-time agreement to show the home and you're not discussing the commission. But the way that I'm proceeding forward is, just writing in the compensation agreement. It's an addendum you can do, and each state's a little bit different. Each MLS may have a different form, but it's pretty straightforward. You can still ask the seller to pay the commission. And so in all my offers going forward, I'm doing just that. Even if I have that conversation with my buyer up front, I'm going to let them know I'm going to do my best to negotiate my own commission and still get you a good deal. And so we can just write that into the offer and submit it right on. They have to present that offer to the seller and negotiate away. But again, that's where, to me, there's... Go ahead, John.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to ask you, so what do you think it is now? Well, we just had this discussion, my wife and I. I'm sitting here playing video guy, doing this YouTube video with you. She's actually out selling houses right now. She's at an open house. And we had not a heated discussion. I would say a difference in opinions on this. So I'd love to get your opinion on this. At the open houses now, she was saying that she believes that if they express interest in seeing other homes, that we have to have them sign something then. But they could look at the house, they could come into the open house, and she could act as a seller without making them sign something. But as soon as they express interest in being in other houses, they had to immediately sign up. I said, no, that's not the case. What are your thoughts on that?
So you do not have to have any kind of signed representation to host an open house. You're actually acting on behalf of the seller in that case, which is a huge opportunity. I would suggest anyone out there to, get in the habit right now to start hosting some open houses. It's going to be a warm way to meet potential buyer leads and, of course, try to sell the listing. But you do not have to have any kind of signed agreement for people just to walk through the door because you're not representing them. At that moment, you're representing the seller. Now, if somebody wants to go and tour another home, prior to doing that, you would have to sign some kind of agreement. It could be just a touring agreement. Again, I would advocate to have that buyer broker agreement. Maybe you provide your value up front, sell yourself on why it'd be worth them working with you and all the value you're going to help them get, the money you're going to help them save, navigate this big, large investment decision. But as far as just being in the open house, hosting it, having people come through the door, answering any questions about that home, you do not have to have any kind of written agreement with those buyers coming through.
All right, good to know. Getting back to this listing, what we are allowed to do. It's funny because people are coming up with all these different ways, that they can get around the rules. Some people are actually attaching keychains that say 3% to the keychain inside the lock boxes. What are we allowed to do?
So according to this, essentially, as long as it's outside of the MLS, it's kind of, and this is where the whole settlement's so interesting because there's a lot of gray area, a lot of interpretation, but this is directly from NAR, and they're saying that you can put it directly on the sign, that you could even advertise it on your own website. Text, call, and email is a way to do it. So if someone is showing your house, you could text them up front and just say, hey, thanks for showing. FYI, we're offering 3%, 2.5%, whatever. As I've been doing going forward, because this really has taken effect already in a lot of places, is calling the agent up front and just asking. Now they can say, hey, we're not offering anything. It can be negotiated. But from my experience so far, everybody has been just throwing out, a typical commission. And I haven't seen much change on my end other than it not just being blatantly advertised in the MLS.
We are now 9 days away from the official change. What do you see happening in the first 3 days of this? Do you think it's just going to be complete chaos, or do you think people are already starting to switch a little bit so, we'll be ready for it? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Some people are preparing. The top agents absolutely are kind of ahead of the curve. There's an interesting stat. I don't know how exact it is. 80% of the business is done by 20% of the agents. And so those top agents who are handling a mass amount of business are likely not changing a whole lot of the ways they do things. They understand the power of incentivizing buyer's agents, right? Most of the time, another agent brings the buyer. And so it's essential to help the sale of the home by cooperating. I don't see anything drastic happening right away. There will be some mistakes and some learning curves, but I think things move forward. The biggest thing here is just getting signed agreements with your buyers before showing homes. That's going to be the biggest learning curve for some agents.
What is that going to look like for you? So, Sarah and I have briefly talked about it. We both have YouTube channels where most of our leads come in. Luckily, our leads are a little bit warm and they know us already. I think there's a certain level of trust that we have. But what can an agent that does it, maybe that they're buying leads off of Zillow, how do they have that conversation with them, in your opinion?
Well, the good news is this applies to every buyer out there, right? It's not like I actually, when I first got into real estate, was on a team and we were trained to get buyers agreements in the very beginning. So something I did kind of learn early on in my career. What you can express to the buyers is, look, regardless of who you choose to work with, you are going to have to navigate this disclosure, choose your commission structure, and commit to an agent, most likely. And so that is where our value proposition is huge. We're going to have to say, hey, this is why you should work with me. I've helped a lot of clients. Obviously, I want to earn your trust, your business. My intention is to save you a lot of money on this deal, get you the best home for you and your family, and go into it very much so like we would a listing presentation. When we go into a listing presentation, everything is negotiated up front. The listing agreement, we go over the whole thing with the seller. It'll be very similar to that now, just with buyers. And so you'll kind of get anything out and ahead of the curve. And once you're past that, you're probably going to have a better relationship with your buyer. They'll be a little more educated. This is where I think honing our craft and working on kind of a buyer presentation will be awesome. And again, it's an opportunity to possibly make more money even. That's not necessarily the goal, but the buyer's agents that will look at themselves as the best and professional have an opportunity here to possibly do better than they have in the past. And so change is not always bad.
You had a little bit of a reference to it earlier about D.R. Horton offering 8%. It's amazing when D.R. Horton does offer 8% commissions on these homes here on the Emerald Coast, how quickly those are snatched up. The motivation behind us as agents to get those sold becomes a little more intense. So, and if D.R. Horton's doing it, why not share that with your buyer? Like, look, this is the way they're getting rid of homes. It's the largest home builder in America. If they think buyer's agents are important enough to pay 8%, shouldn't you think it's important enough to at least make sure that I get paid 3%? Right?
Yeah, right, exactly. D.R. Horton probably has more data than, a lot of local MLSs. I mean, you're talking about the largest builder in the country. They know their stuff. And so if they still see the value in the midst of all this going on to offer extreme incentives to not only the agents, but the home buyer themselves, that just shows that it works. And so that's the same conversation that I think listing agents will have with their sellers. I don't think a lot of listing agents are going to go in there and say, yeah, we'll sell your home, no problem. We'll never pay another buyer's agent. It's kind of a silly conversation, in my opinion. So you do see those homes fly off the shelves. Not that we ever want to steer our buyers. We can't legally do that, of course, but you can guarantee that if it's within their realm, we're going to at least present the opportunity to this house that's offering 8%.
We're going to drive by for
works.
sure. We're going to say, hey, look at this home. I know this isn't on our list today, but let's take a look. Maybe something will happen.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see where the next 3 months go. Levi, thank you so much for joining me today. This is something we're going to be doing a lot of every Thursday. We're going to be doing a video like this. It'll probably be dropping on Saturday. So we really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button, as we are going to try and bring as much value as we possibly can to this channel. So thank you for dealing with us today. Hopefully we didn't have too many technical glitches. I know this is my first time really running this setup, but we will get better, and hopefully we provide some value to you, and you will continue to subscribe and like this channel. Anything else in closing, Levi?
Thanks, John. It's always a pleasure, and excited to kind of work with people. This is a growing community. Realtors, we're all colleagues. The biggest thing I think to take away from this, guys, is just focus on your mindset. If you feel doom and gloom, then you're probably not taking the right approach. Opportunity comes with change. So get excited. There's a lot of business out there. There's no reason to be freaking out. Just position yourself ahead of the competition, because you'll have an edge over a lot of these buyers that are putting their head in the sand. And so exciting times ahead. That's the way I look at it. And hope to see you guys again soon. We'll continue to navigate this together.
You know what that was? That was some BME. You just shared some big money energy. I just read Ryan Serhant's book, which I thought Ryan Serhant was a tool forever, but I actually love him. I think about changing my hair gray. Big money energy. If you haven't read the book, definitely check it out. All right. We will talk to you next time. Thank you.